All right, question 20 on GRE practice test 1 here in section 5. We're again dealing with this chart that I've kind of mangled at this point, but hopefully we can still read it. Talking about the variation in the amount of caffeine in these common beverages and drugs. This time, the question asks us, which of the following shows the 4 types of coffee listed in order according to the range of the amounts of caffeine in a 5-ounce cup from least to greatest? So the first thing you need to know is what this word range means. It's got a very specific meaning in a statistics class. It always means the maximum value minus the minimum value. It's not present in this question, but at some point you might be asked about the interquartile range, which is similar to the range, except now you're not taking the maximum value minus the minimum value. You're taking the third quartile minus the first quartile. The range is the greatest minus the least. The interquartile range is the greatest quartile minus the least quartile. But again, this doesn't talk about the interquartile range. That's just some extra info that you'll want to have handy for the test. What's nice is we're just looking at the 4 types of coffee here. So we can completely ignore these other beverages and these drugs and just calculate the range of these 4 drinks. If you're the type that really likes to do things kind of algebraically, you might estimate the maximum value, estimate the minimum value, and then calculate the range based on those 2 estimates by doing the max minus the min. And that'll absolutely work, right? Decaffeinated coffee, looks like the max is 10 or so, the min is 0 or so. 10 minus 0 gives me 10. For percolated coffee, it looks like the max is somewhere over here, 170, give or take. And the min we already figured out was 40. 170 minus 40 gives me 130. For drip brewed coffee, looks like the max is a little bit more than 175. I don't know, maybe 180. And the min we figured out was 60 already. 180 minus 60 leaves me with 120. And then finally, instant coffee. The max is between 100 and 125, a little closer to 125, so maybe I ballpark that to be 120. The min is between 25 and 50, but it looks like it's closer to 25 than it is to 50. So much like I did down here with caffeinated soft drinks, I'd ballpark that to be equal to 30. 120 is my max, 30 is my min. 120 minus 30 is 90. I've calculated the range for each of these drinks. Coming back over here, it wants the least range to the greatest range. So I guess really the winner is the one with the least range, which would be decaffeinated coffee. Second place would be the second least range, which would be instant coffee. Third place would be the third least range, which would be the drip brew. And finishing in last place would be the one with the greatest range, which is the percolated coffee. So the answer to the question is decaf, instant, drip, percolated. Looks like that's answer B. I mentioned that you might do the problem this way if you're especially algebraically inclined. If you like doing 10 minus 0 gives you 10. But another interpretation of the range, I guess an equivalent interpretation of the range, instead of thinking about it as max minus min, you could just think about it as the length of this bar. And if you think about it that way, you can just kind of look at these and be like, well, this bar is the shortest. This bar is definitely the second shortest. These two, they're pretty similar. It's hard to tell. I think this one is a little bit shorter than this one because they finish at damn near the same spot, but this one starts 20 or so milligrams earlier. So this one's going to be longer than this one. Thinking about range as the length of these bars gives us this exact same ordering from least to greatest of these 4 drinks without actually calculating the values. Since they don't ask for the range themselves, they just want you to rank the ranges. It might be a more efficient use of your time to ballpark the length of these different bars.